Hey friends, we are back again. Thanks for everybody that just gave your input and watched our last video. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight in. This is Debbie again. She lots of experience working with children and adults and just in the mental health. And so, and I'm Becca, and I am getting my master's in social work. Today we want to just bring some information on having the mental health conversation with different age groups and kind of what that looks like, and just give you some quick practical tips and things to think about as you try and have that conversation with your kids. So why don't you go ahead and start?
So I think the first thing is to realize that behavior is communication. The same sort of thing can be confused with something else. Like, so an attitude could be, being defiant, or it could be that they're feeling another emotion, like they're unable to complete the task they want. A lot of times I work with horses, and stomping their foot can mean that they're agitated, they want to move, they want to go, they're tired of being where they're at, or it could be that a fly is bothering them and they need to stomp their foot to get some relief. And so I think if we kind of have that mindset of behavior is communication, we can catch things smaller than when it turns into a kind of a bigger ordeal. We kind of talked about anger and how that can present it as something other than just maybe having a bad day, but there's kind of apathy is also a lot of times it can be labeled as lazy or just not having a drive or something, but it can really be something else as far as like I used to care, and now it just takes too much energy to care, or I know that I'm going to fail anyway, so why care? And so there's some definitely behaviors that can present as one, and really it's something else.
Yeah. The next thing I think that we want to talk about is just looking at the behavior, then like identifying what the behavior is, and then as a parent being willing to step back and ask yourself what is the motive behind that behavior. A lot of times we have the immediate desire to respond and just correct the behavior and label it as a bad behavior, or you're being disrespectful, you can't do that, but sometimes because an understanding that there's an emotion and something going on behind the behavior that you're seeing, just some things that you can ask yourself as you're observing it. Is this a new behavior? Has this behavior been around for a while? Is this a behavior that's persisting and intensifying? Yeah. Is it out of character for your child? So your child may be pretty just tends to be joyful. Things roll off their back really easily. They don't tend to get frustrated, but you're all of a sudden seeing this behavior. It's not a part of their typical way of responding.
And I think we can understand that in some ways, right? All of us can have a threshold of I can tolerate this, I can't tolerate this anymore. And I think especially when we think about quarantine and isolation life and disappointments, we can tolerate a certain level of disappointments for a certain period of time, and then it becomes to be too much and it's overwhelming, and we may have an overreaction to something that is really actually probably a very appropriate reaction for the things that been experienced over these last months.
Yeah. The other thing is you might think about what you hear their words, you see the behavior, what else is it that they could be trying to communicate to you? What are they thinking about this right now? And also just being willing to evaluate, like, is this my perception? Is this me being offended as a parent? Or is this really what my child is trying to communicate? And what is that they're trying to communicate? And then just knowing how to approach the language, for the lack of a better term, of emotion with different age groups. It's going to look different if I talk to a 2-year-old that hasn't really labeled emotions to a 17-year-old that knows their emotions. For a 2-year-old, and I think it's important early on not to label angry, sad, hurt, what the range of emotions that are bad. to label them as bad, but just identifying, like, you seem really upset, you seem really angry, you seem really sad, you're crying. Why do why do you think you're crying? And identifying some of those things. For a teenager, it's going to look a little bit different. They may get offended if you're like, why are you angry?
Yeah, I think when you use the question why in a more teen adult conversation, it can come across as you wanting an explanation, or it's that person to justify their reaction. So you may say something like, I want you to pick up your toys, or I want you to pick up your room, or whatever, and then the teenager can turn around and be angry about it, and you're like, why are you so mad about that? It's your toys, you got them out. And I think the thing is if we have the question why, then it can come back with that same kind of intensity. But if you ask, what made you so mad when I asked you to do that? Mm-hmm. Then you're having a curious conversation about, okay, there's, I didn't sleep well, and I had something I was doing with my friends, and I am gonna, and there's probably more of an explanation, or tell me what made you so mad.
Yeah.
When I asked you to, do a simple chore that you're supposed to do. Yeah. And kind of going through that. So.
And I know it may seem mundane or maybe too practical, but I think sometimes we get stuck in our own thought and our own response and the way that we feel in the situation, and that we forget to look at maybe the thought process of what's going on, especially with our teens, because they're in this really weird limbo stage of trying to become an adult, trying to be who they are supposed to be, and still live under a household, and then everything else that's going on. So I hope that some of this language, some of these thoughts can just help provide the conversation that needs to start in the home. And, it may sound like you're kind of being a therapist, but sometimes as a parent, you take on these different roles and different hats. And so, please continue to look for resources, reach out if you feel like your child needs more intervention, more counseling, but we hope that this can help facilitate that conversation, because they are feeling a lot of things right now, and that's normal. And so it's normal to be sad. I haven't seen my friends. It's normal to be angry. It's normal to feel maybe isolated or even kind of apathetic, because what's the purpose? Yeah. So I just hope that helps facilitate your conversation at home. All right, friends. Bye. Bye.